Hello and welcome to another episode of French Here Trumpet. I'm Andy from AJ in France, and we've got Colin here from French Countryside Life as usual. And once a week we come together and speak about stuff that we find interesting. It's sometimes related to France and sometimes not. So we're going to just go over a couple of things, and the first thing is at the end of the last video, and don't worry because not many people probably got to the end of the last video, we said that we're going to do a Q&A session if we get enough questions. We've got some actually got some really good questions that I'm looking forward to answering, but unfortunately with what we do, our videos tend to be about an hour long, so we're going to need a few more questions. It can be on any subject that you want, or anything we've covered, or any of our guests, if you want us to reach out to them and ask them a question.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so anything you want to know, then, leave a comment below and we'll add it to our questions for our Q&A. We've got probably half what we need, I think, at the moment, but
yeah, I think so, yeah.
Because it's an hour, and an hour is a long time to answer questions, even with our.
Although there is a very real risk of going off topic.
I was just going to say, even though we do go off topic a lot. So, anyway, so this is my idea for an episode today. Is the end of the world. I know it sounds strange, but I'm just interested to see. With current politics as they are, how do we think that the end of the world as we know it, not necessarily the complete destruction of humanity, but...
Well, did you see on the news that the current head of MI6 said that we're the closest we've been since the war to, some very serious international geopolitical conflict?
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. Obviously, everybody can't fail to avoid the current situation in Ukraine and obviously Israel as well at the same time. And we don't really want to get into the partisan politics of it.
No. We'll get to all that anyway. We'll get to all that because that's... Yeah.
So, but I know what you're saying. Now, have you heard of the doomsday clock?
Yes. Just expand on that for me.
So, a group of, I don't know if they're scientists or philosophers or whoever, or probably both, gather together and they estimate how close we are on a clock face to extinction of the human race through means of our own or other means.
Don't you think it's quite a what's the word? Not selfish, conceited way to think about things, that because the human race dies out, that's the end of the world?
That's a good question. I suppose it is the end of the world for anyone who can realise it is the end of the world.
That's true. It's just conceited to think that the end of the world is going to be the end of the human race. It's not, is it? It's just going to carry on.
I see. The other way around. I see what you mean.
With a bit less concrete.
Yeah. I see what you mean. The universe will go on.
Yeah.
Certainly go on. And in fact, I think in 1 billion years' time, the sun will start to turn into a red giant, and the temperature on Earth will be so high it would not support life anyway. And in exactly. And in 4 billion years, the sun will have enveloped the Earth and completely destroyed it anyway. So
that's 50, I think.
That's a definite.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were talking about the doomsday clock.
Yeah, so we are at the last check less than 2 minutes away from complete destruction.
I better finish my drink, you know.
And what it means is basically the closer you are to midnight, so we're 11:58, something like that, or less I think now. And once it gets to midnight, that's it, and the world is done. And it's based around geopolitical factors such as, well, it was mainly brought in for nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
How likely they are to be launched, and because once one is launched, then the retaliation is the same, and so on and so forth. So we are pretty close, but I'm not sure. What do you think? Are we as close now as we were in the Cuban Missile Crisis? Less or more, or what do you think about that?
I think that that each drama as it comes around, seems to envelop the news media, and everything gets focused on that, and then in a couple of months' time, it's just your chip paper, isn't it? And I mean, I've lost count of the amount of times situations have come up where you think, well, this is it. This is definitely it.
Well,
and then,
end of the world.
This is definitely it, and it's all going to kick off, and it's very, very bad. But I don't know whether there's a certain amount of sanity knocking about the world.
Yeah, but I mean, in direct.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, in direct. What's the word? Comparison, that's the word, with the Cuban Missile Crisis, in specific with the nuclear threat from Russia. Because, right, the reason I'm asking is in the 60s, when this was all happening, then you had people going out and actually digging holes in their back garden and putting in shelters. You had,
it was a very real thing, yeah.
Yeah, because they were just parked off the US, well, the southern US coast, if you like. It was very close. You had, I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever been to any museums or anything like that in England about the Cold War? When you were in England, did you ever go?
There were in Essex. There's just not far from a place called Brentwood, a place called Ongar. There's a secret nuclear bunker which is advertised as.
Yep. So last year, I went on New Year's Eve to Kelvedon Hatch, which is the bunker you're talking about.
There you go. Yeah, just outside Ongar.
And had a look around. It's not the It's not the first time I've been there, actually.
Right.
I went there in 2006, and I went back again, and they've filled it out with more props and more stuff and things. It's quite interesting. And they've even got, because it's a real live. Well, it was up until the early 2000s, I think. Then it was decommissioned. So it's interesting how they saw the situation then, but then obviously the Cold War ended and everything started to get decommissioned. So I think probably now we're not as bad as we were in the 60s with the Cuban Missile.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. So I've asked AI to give us a list of the end of the world scenarios, and curiously, AI pops up on two scenarios. So anyway, all right. So it's under a different heading. So the first heading is natural causes.
Right.
And the first scenario is an asteroid impact. Let me just read it here. Large asteroids or comets, like the one that contributed to the extinction of the dinosaurs 66 million years ago, could cause massive destruction through impact. The energy release can be equivalent to millions of nuclear bombs, leading to wildfires, tsunamis, and a nuclear winter effect that blocks sunlight.
Wow.
So, I understand there's an agency, probably a US agency, or I don't know if it's worldwide, that actually looks for these things.
Right.
Although I don't think Bruce Willis is in any state to go and blow it up, is he?
No, not at the moment.
But yeah, I mean, it's happened once.
Well, exactly. I'm not sure. I mean, because they can track quite far out. We would know, I think, pretty early on if something like that was going to happen.
Would they tell us though?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Because it's not just government agencies that would see it now.
No, it's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There's so many other people with powerful telescopes that see it that they would, you know, I mean, it'd be obvious very quickly. And with the internet and social media, it would.
I'd have to find my mate Elon, I think. Get us out of here.
Yeah.
I'm a celebrity, get me out of here.
So I'm not sure about that. I mean, it could happen. Well, it's the only one out of the ones we're going to talk about that's probably has actually happened. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point. So number 2, supervolcanic eruption. Supervolcanoes such as Yellowstone in the US have the potential to erupt with catastrophic force. Such eruptions can eject vast amounts of ash and gases into the atmosphere, leading to a significant drop in global temperatures and disrupting agriculture, which could result in famine.
Yeah.
I remember when there was the eruption, I think it was in Iceland, of that volcano, that the ash drifted all over Western Europe. And we had, I say we, when I was a chauffeur at JLT, they had senior people right across Europe who couldn't get home because, you know, the flight's been cancelled. So the chauffeurs had about a week where we drove all over Europe and just picked people up and brought them back.
Wow. What a job.
Yeah.
What a job.
Yeah.
But that's specific to volcanoes with aviation. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the only sort of experience I've had. But that Yellowstone volcano, it's a super volcano. I remember reading that the ground on top of it and around it goes up and down by 2 or 3 feet, a meter or so, on a regular basis.
So what sort of size are we looking at then with that? Do you know?
The size of Essex.
Yeah. But yeah. So the problem from that is the ash blocking out the light.
It's the ash would if it's as big as they say it is, and I've no reason to doubt the geologists in charge, and it did go off in a big way, then it would envelop the whole world. And yeah.
So, but the question is, there must be other ones like that around the world that people just don't even know about.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean, Russia is such a massive country.
Sorry,
you could plant Essex and no one would ever see it.
Yeah, probably just as well, actually.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, kind of scary though. That something like that is just waiting to go. It's not if it's going to go, it's when it's going to go.
So that's interesting because did you hear Pierce Brosnan got into trouble in Yellowstone, didn't he?
No, I didn't know.
He trespassed onto the site by accident and he got fined for it. But anyway, that's completely different thing altogether. Interesting. Yeah. So the thing about the volcanic eruption is when that happened, that will be a slow, painful end. Like, so on one side,
That's
you've
what
got
you mean. Yeah.
nuclear weapons, which are
Yeah.
all going to be done and dusted within a couple of minutes.
Unless you happen to be Yogi Bear.
Well, yeah. But
That'd
the
be bad.
ash in the air relies on all the crops dying. So you've got that time between
Famine. Yeah.
it going off
Yeah.
and then not being able to grow crops. That's scary. That I think that'd be more dangerous than.
In terms of personal safety, yeah, because I always remember reading it. You know, when you read a book and a particular scene sticks in your head, and you just think, wow, that's you know that could really happen. So there's a guy in this book who's a prepper, but he's a prepper in like an urban situation. You know, he's got the pasta and the water in the basement, and he's got a generator and all that. Anyway, I think there's a cyber attack, and all the power goes down, and it's not coming back on for weeks and weeks and weeks, if ever. And so he's all prepared. He's got his generators and that, and he's got his freezers full up with burgers and so on. Anyway, he decides a few days into it, he decides to go into the garden to have a barbecue. Of course, the smell of all the food.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden, 3 heads pop up over the garden fence. They say, well, you know, what you got? You got any more? He said, well, no, you know, I've got to say what I've got. And then that's it. They jump over the fence and just take everything off him. So anyway, yeah.
But I think that's pretty scary. I think one of the biggest ones though is, which we're seeing more and more, is the change in the climate as well.
Actually, that's on the list actually.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go on.
That's all right.
What's your next on your list?
So next on the list is nuclear winter, which sort of follows on from the previous one. So a large-scale nuclear conflict could produce massive firestorms, injecting soot and debris into the atmosphere. This could lead to a significant cooling of the Earth's surface, drastically altering climate patterns and leading to widespread agricultural failure. So that's a book that we both read. Annie Jacobsen.
Yep, Nuclear War, I think it's called.
Yeah. The book's in 3 parts, isn't it? And the last part of the book describes nuclear winter in some detail. And it's horrifying. It's the whole food production system relies on last minute orders, so that there's no stock held anywhere, because obviously stock costs money. So
also stuff wants to be fresh.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Everyone wants it fresh, don't they?
Yeah. So to break anything within that pattern just means food shortages within a very short time. And you'll notice that in all these, obviously it's fiction, but in all these zombie movies and apocalyptic movies, it quickly goes from the threat of the zombies or the threat of fire or the threat of, you know, the original cause, down to the threat of people, other people, other survivors wanting to take your shit. And so it's just people, isn't it? Sadly.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. In fact, we mentioned on one of our episodes, I mentioned a film that you can actually download on YouTube called Blackout, and it's from the year 2013. So if you type in Blackout 2013, it's very similar to the story you had there. It's a Channel 4 drama, one episode about what happens if the power goes out.
Yeah.
In England, in the UK, and it's very eye-opening and quite well done, actually.
So moving swiftly on, number 4, pandemic. Strange enough.
Yeah.
The emergence of a highly contagious and lethal pathogen similar to the 1918 influenza pandemic, or more recently COVID-19, could overwhelm healthcare systems and lead to high mortality rates, societal collapse, and prolonged economic disruption.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether to go down the rabbit hole of COVID-19. I think that's not really.
I don't know. It's very controversial, isn't it?
It's all been said a million times as well. I think everybody who's read anything about it knows what it's all about, where it come from, and so on.
I think, yeah, but I know what you're saying from this. If there's a pandemic or something, I mean, for example, at the moment we have. You heard about the monkeypox?
Yeah. I don't think you can call it that anymore. I think it's called Mpox.
Right. Okay. Mpox. So there's that. I mean, and in fact, the main, shall we say, administrations or scientists and stuff said, look, for a long time they've been saying that a pandemic is coming, and it did come, and that's for sure. No one can deny that point. But they also said at the same time, this isn't going to be the last time. There's going to be something else.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So we're going to have to face that down. Now, it's quite interesting because my niece was born during COVID lockdowns. And recently, last week, my nephew has been born outside of that. So it'd be interesting to see the development, because children who were born during the lockdowns and the pandemic are going to develop, I think, probably slightly differently to people who can fully enjoy what we enjoyed, with the interactions and the learning, because when you're at such a young age, that's quite important. So it'll be interesting.
I think the world has changed completely, but because it happened over a period of time, the changes quickly became normalised, and like I said, you can really go down a rabbit hole with that stuff. So I think we'll move swiftly on, if that's all right. So this is an interesting one: solar flare.
Ah, yeah.
A massive solar flare or coronal mass ejection could disrupt global event, could lead to prolonged blackouts affecting food and water distribution systems.
Right. So this is interesting. So basically what they're saying is an electromagnetic pulse from the sun.
EMP, yeah.
So there's a famous event, I think it was called the Carrington event, something like that, in 1890 something, where there was a massive flare from the sun, and it knocked out what was then the telegraph system. But for me, it's a non-starter, to be honest. So recently, in fact, only maybe a month and a half ago, the sun emitted more radiation and more solar flares than was present during that period in the 1800s.
Right.
And there were some disruption, but nothing major, and everything carried on as normal. So for something to actually affect us properly in that respect, it would have to be massive. I mean,
so when people say there's no such thing as a stupid question,
yeah,
I've probably got one of those for you.
Okay.
So a solar panel,
yep,
produces electric from what type of energy that comes from the sun? Is it UV, electromagnetic? What is it that actually produces the electricity in that cell?
It's the sunlight, so the non-visible radiation which hits the panels, and the chemical makeup of the the cells, it induces a current inside the cells. It's not the electromagnetic stuff from the sun, it's the visible. This is really complicated because visible light and your Wi-Fi is all on the same spectrum.
Right.
So it's electromagnetic spectrum, which can go anything from normal analog radios, like the FM radios that you have in your car or used to have in your car, low frequency, past microwaves, which you use in your microwave oven. It's all very similar, and then you get to light, which is just a different frequency of that, and so on and so forth. So it's
so does that mean that that solar panels wouldn't be affected by any fluctuation in the sun's output?
Only in the visible light range. So what you can actually see,
right?
I guess, put it evenly, but not on EMP style basis, if that's what you're thinking.
Good. All right. So moving swiftly on, climate change. I mean, that's an episode in itself, isn't it? Accelerating climate change due to human activities could lead to extreme weather events, loss of biodiversity, and sea level rise. These changes could displace millions, lead to resource conflicts, and threaten food security. So I'll just whiz through that because it's a big.
So for me, it's climate change. The evidence is there now. Obviously, things are different than what they used to be. I mean, you can tell that by what it used to be like when you were a kid compared to what it is now, and that's a really short time scale. Unusually warm winters and unusually cold summers, not just one or two, but on a grand scheme. I mean, we've had so much rain the last few years.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's I got 11 euros from the French government to cover my loss of crops that I don't grow.
Because you got a field.
It's because I've got a field, yeah. Okay, right. Well, let's move on from that, if that's all right. If you're happy with that. This is an interesting one for you. So, gamma ray burst. Wow. A gamma ray burst, a high energy explosion in space, could occur within our galaxy. If directed at Earth, it could strip away the atmosphere and expose the surface to lethal radiation levels, potentially wiping out life. It's a laugh, isn't it?
So, right, question. What produces this then? How's that?
So wouldn't that be a neutron star? If a star went supernova and shot out gamma rays.
God, you sound like
could be the Klingons.
I think something like that. Right. The difficulty with all this kind of stuff that you're just saying there, like black holes and stuff, is you can see it.
Yes.
And it's not like asteroids. Stuff like that is you can see it a long way off. So I think if a star was going to go supernova, then you'd know about it way in advance. I don't think that's super likely.
No.
But that's my own opinion. I'm not sure, because anything to do with stars and stuff, so you're looking into, if you look at stars in the sky, all the stars you see probably aren't there anymore.
Yeah, because of the restrictions of the speed of light.
So all the lights that you see are millions of years old. So it's like looking in a video with a massive lag. So we're looking in the past, basically.
I think the stars are using Skype, aren't they?
That's it. So I don't think that would catch us out without at least 1,000 years notice. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
All right. Last one in the natural causes: ice age. A sudden shift in climate could trigger a new ice age, making large portions of the planet inhospitable due to extreme cold. This could result in a collapse of isn't it? No reason to believe it won't happen again.
Again, that's not something that will just appear overnight, I don't think.
No.
That's something that would be obvious. And considering that the world's temperature generally, on average, is increasing, I don't think that's very likely.
There's one that's not on the list that just popped in my head. It's the change, the sudden switch, if you like, of magnetic poles. Have you heard about that?
I've heard about it, but I'm not convinced. What do you know about it?
I don't know. just that that's potentially can happen.
And what would be the result of that?
I suppose if there was a lag in between the switch, I don't really know, to be honest, what the magnetic field does. Does it deflect gamma rays or something? I don't know.
Do you know what? I'm going to go with that because that sounds amazing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's pretend I didn't say any of that because
actually, it's interesting because I have heard that before, that the poles will switch. I'm not sure if that would occur, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Human causes. Right.
Millions.
So the obvious one to start with: nuclear war. Yeah. Escalating geopolitical tensions could lead to a full-scale nuclear war, resulting in immediate destruction and long-term environmental consequences, including radiation contamination and societal breakdown.
Yeah.
Right. It's. We covered a lot of this on the books. Frontier Trumpet, when we talked about Annie Jacobsen, and the potential for all-out nuclear war is very real, and it'll happen, within, was it 42 minutes, wasn't it? I remember rightly.
I was surprised by how short the time scale was.
Yeah, but we're not going to know about it until it's happened.
So that's interesting because there's a guy, you probably know him, Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
You heard of him? He's a massive investor in the US, and he is his one main fear he has is of nuclear exchange, just simply because humans can't really be trusted. There's so many things at play that eventually it's going to happen. So
I remember in that Annie Jacobsen book, she talks about, I think it may have been in the early 80s, where there was the alarms went off in a Russian ICBM bunker silo, and the guy who's there in charge of pressing the button went, "I'm not sure about this," and just didn't press the button.
Yeah.
And it was probably just as well because it was a fault, wasn't it, in the Russian software.
I think that was more like Russian mechanisms like that. Not very good anyway. So he probably knew that, and he thought, well, look, I'm not going to destroy the world because I know that it's pretty rubbish equipment. So but I remember that one. That's interesting. But I think this is if we're going to get drawn into this, what we'll see one day on the news, like Sky News will pop up, something along the lines of the International Atomic Energy Commission or something like that has detected a atomic blast in, I'm going to say, Ukraine, eastern Ukraine. I think that's how it will start, and that will be a small nuclear warhead used by the Russians against the Ukrainians. And after that, gloves are off.
Yeah, all bets are off.
But there's one thing for sure: you can't do anything nuclear anywhere on the planet without someone else knowing.
No, that's true.
So you can't sneak a nuclear weapon in there because everyone can detect it. So it's interesting because, completely off subject, part of my system in my house, it detects when there's a lightning strike within 5 kilometers of my house and disconnects me from the mains electricity service. It's completely boring and
pretty good,
silly, but I've made it that way. So that is actually done by receivers and receptors all over the world, coordinated by the internet. And they measure the distance from the lightning strike to where they are, and then they all triangulate their position, and it's really, really accurate. And they can do exactly the same thing with any kind of nuclear explosion or detonation whatsoever. So if we get anything like that in Ukraine, and I think that's how it will start. A small nuclear detonation has been detected in the western half of Ukraine or somewhere like that. And that's how it will start. But that wouldn't necessarily trigger a response because the Russians are very good at brinkmanship, so they will do whatever they can up until someone says, no, you can't do that. So they might do it just to test and see what happens. We'll see.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, funny enough, I was just going to say to you that that sort of brings us back to COVID and all the restrictions that were imposed on us. But strangely enough, the next subject is bioweapons.
Right. Okay. So it's very interesting you just said that. No, go on. You do your thing. You do your thing.
The use of biological weapons, whether through state-sponsored terrorism or rogue actors, could lead to uncontrollable outbreaks of engineered pathogens, resulting in massive casualties and societal disruption.
I agree. And I've just read a book by Mohammed Suleiman, who we'll get to this in a minute, but he sold his AI company to one of the big ones. But he says basically, we'll get to AI in a minute, I reckon, but that's the end of us. But also, he says, for about 10 to 15,000 euros, you can go out and buy yourself a machine. You can, in your own home, take the DNA and splice it together and make up any kind of pathogen you want. If you've got the knowledge, you can buy the machine, no
Yeah,
problems.
of course.
And you could make for example, Mpox, COVID style thing, and splice it together with rabies or whatever you wanted, and you can send that out. If you have the know-how, you can buy the machine for between, I don't know, 10 to 15,000 euros. So it's possible, and it's only a matter of time before that's done.
Right.
So that's possible.
All right. So next, environmental destruction. Deforestation, pollution, and loss of biodiversity could lead to ecosystem collapse. The degradation of vital resources such as clean water and fertile land could trigger mass migrations and conflicts. Now, when I read that, the first thing that occurred to me was bees. You only need to lose bees, and it's a bit of a house of cards there.
Do you know what? And this is really, really sad, and I actually do think about this a lot. So in 2009, I went on an 18-day motorcycle tour of France, Germany, Italy, Spain, wherever, loads of European countries for about 18 days. And every day, for about 2 or 3 times a day, I had to clean my visor on my bike.
Yes. Yep. From the bug flats.
Yeah. And then it was completely covered to the point where you couldn't see through it.
Yeah.
Now, I've been riding my bike here for a couple of years. Never even seen anything like that. Don't even really need to clean the visor when I get home. There's no insects around anymore compared to what they used to be.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And I think you've got a point. I really do. It's gonna, because that affects everything. It affects bird population, which affects this population. I mean,
of course, yeah. The whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, you must know yourself. You used to drive the car here or wherever, and it'd be full of flies and all that. But it's not now, is it?
No, I just don't get it. You just don't get it.
But that is not scary. Is that
not terrifying? Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, because it's like taking away the foundations of a house and then wondering why your house falls down.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. It's so scary that there's nothing there. I mean, I find it weird. I can drive my car all summer and don't even have to wash it because there's nothing on it. I mean, that's completely wrong.
Just to, funny to say that, just to cover something that we spoke about, was it last week or the week before, about it's illegal to wash your car in France. So I looked into that. And it is illegal to wash your car in France on a public road or wherever the wastewater is going to go into the water course, into main drains. You can wash your car on your private land, providing the wastewater doesn't go into public drains. Bingo.
Nice.
Bingo,
that's good.
Bingo.
It's a good tip. Good tip.
Yeah. Right. So, okay. So now we're going to get into the thick of it here. This is the good bit. Not that wasn't good, but this is the good bit. Technological misuse. The development of advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence and biotechnology, poses risks if mismanaged. An uncontrolled AI could act in ways detrimental to human safety, while gene editing could lead to unforeseen consequences. Now, did you see they've got a humanoid robot now for sale? No. This is a mass-produced one for $18,000.
Wow.
And it's humanoid. It's humanoid. It will do everything that you can.
All right. No, I've not seen that.
10. Did you hear that?
Go on, say that again.
They made it 4'10", so it wouldn't seem threatening.
Really?
Hmm.
No, I've not seen that.
Yeah. It was either $16,000 or $18,000.
Because I know that recently there was you seen the Tesla robot?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they displayed them at like a convention or something like that, and you could interact with them. But what they
Yeah.
didn't tell you, or wasn't obvious, was that they were being piloted behind the scenes by somebody.
That's the what was the
Mechanical Turk.
the Turkish, was it Turk? The Turk?
Mechanical Turk.
Mechanical Turk. There you go. Boom.
Yeah. So it's not quite that kind of thing's not quite. I don't think we'll be seeing robots running down the street taking over stuff anytime soon. It's just not possible. I mean, at the moment, obviously in the advancement, yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
they can barely do. They can barely stand up. So,
So the second part of that technological misuse, an uncontrolled AI could act in ways detrimental to human safety. Now, I watched a thing on YouTube about it. I can't remember who it was now, but it was someone senior in that field, and he was asked, right, yeah, so the way they had set it up, they had an avatar, which was the front of the AI, and the guy that was asking the questions was one of the senior people in the development of AI. And he asked the avatar, if the AI thought that to improve the AI's future, humans would be in the way of that, would they get rid of the humans? And without hesitation, now I just went, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I?
Of course. And AI is a really big threat because we can't think like it. We don't know what it's thinking because we can't. It's so far above how we could think. We can't. We don't know what it's thinking.
Yeah.
So the main leaders in the industry think that before we get to the point where it destroys humanity, it will bring cures for stuff that we don't have cures for. It will solve stuff we can't solve. But after that, then we're done. Think about this. It's similar to, right, so if you subscribe to, I'll say this, if you subscribe to the fact that we evolved from fish that climbed out of the sea and eventually became able to breathe the air and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
If you subscribe to that, then AI is the next level. So how do we treat fish?
Exactly, yeah.
So that's how they will look at us.
We had this conversation, I think it was last week or week before, about aliens. So AI. Yeah.
It's going to be a big problem because I don't know if you know, but recently there was a big convention about all the people, including Elon Musk, and said, look, we need to be really careful what we're doing here because we can be creating our own end, if you know what I mean. And they said, well, yeah, we like that, but the money and the status that this will give us we've all voted for, and we're all going to remove all the safeguards. So all the safeguards that were in place with AI have been removed. So any company now can do exactly what they want to do, and nobody can tell them not to, which is scary. And that's just happened in the last year. So
I guess we'll see, won't we? I guess we'll see. Having said that, as I say, this list was compiled by AI, which is ironic, isn't it? Really.
very scary.
Right, moving swiftly on because I can't believe the time is whizzed by.
Always.
Competition over dwindling natural resources.
Right.
Regions and potentially leading to global crises. So, resource was fresh water. I mean, that was the whole base of Mad Max, wasn't it? Resource was, wasn't it, with fuel oil and water.
Well, I think more likely it's going to be fossil fuels eventually, but not for our lifetime. But it's going to run out. And you'll be surprised, like, who has the most oil. It's not the people who have the most oil is Canada and Venezuela, I think, something like that. I mean, it's just but they're just sitting on top of it because Canada is under their national parks. Venezuela is completely politically estranged, I guess. But,
yeah. Okay, so moving on to the last section, if you like, speculative scenarios. So these are the ones that are a bit out there, which are the good ones. So I'll just whiz through this. Okay, so first one, alien invasion. The hypothetical arrival of hostile extraterrestrial beings could result in warfare or colonization, threatening human existence. This scenario often appears in science fiction, strange enough, but raises questions about our preparedness for such an event. Take me to your leader.
Absolutely not.
And I'll have a Big Mac.
We discussed this on our last one before. It's just so inconceivable that it's not even no. I'm going to give that a 0 out of 5.
0 out of 10. Okay. All right. Next one. Super intelligent AI.
Yeah.
The development of super intelligent AI might lead to unintended consequences if the AI's goals do not align with human values. It could act in ways that are harmful or even hostile to humanity. So we sort of covered that.
Yeah, so I'd go probably say 4 out of 5 for that.
Yeah, we should have done this all the way through, shouldn't we? Rated him.
Oh, that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. All right. The next one, time travel paradox. Now, hold your horses and
I am.
Okay. Theoretical time travel could result in paradoxes that alter significant events in history, potentially leading to catastrophic outcomes. This idea, while speculative, really, raises questions about causality and the nature of time.
Sure, but no. So I'm going to give that a 0.
Okay, so next one, cosmic events.
Okay.
Events like the collision of our Milky Way galaxy with the Andromeda galaxy, expected to occur in about 4 billion years, could drastically alter the solar system. Whilst this is far in the future, it highlights the potential for cosmic scale events to impact Earth.
I'll get for sure in that time frame, about 4 billion years, we'll all be dead and Earth will be completely mullered. Yeah, so I'll give that a 5.
Okay. So let me just I'll talk amongst yourselves. Oh no, I deleted it, didn't I?
Go on.
Sorry.
Well, it's not just me that says that about the Earth being swallowed up in 4 billion years. What's that really clever guy called on telly a lot? The guy
Brian Cox?
used to be in the band.
Brian Cox. Yeah, Brian Cox.
That's it. He said exactly the same thing. Yeah, there's no stopping it. That's what's going to happen. You're just going to, but we won't be here in 4 billion years.
No, it's not something I need to worry about.
We'll probably all be nuked by then by AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, question
philosophical and
question for you.
Yeah, go on. Go ahead.
What if you had to list 3 top end of the world scenarios, from 1 being the most likely to 3 being less likely, what would you go for, the top 3 for you?
So all that nuclear exchange, nuclear winter, because there's a lot of nutcases about. Second one would probably be pandemic again, but like a proper one this time.
Not a fake one.
Yeah. And third one, either something like the Yellowstone, or some geological scenario, or an asteroid.
You can't have 4. Top 3.
Well, that was joint 3.
Joint 3. I think I would go. Yeah, I think I would probably go the slow destruction of climate change as number 1, because no one's doing anything about it. So that's probably going to be number 1. Number 2, I'd agree probably with you, nuclear exchange of some sort, minor or major, one of the 2. 3, eventually probably AI, I think. I think not now, because it's not clever enough, but it, like, to teach the AI you use for the stuff that you use, they had to build 2 power stations just to teach the computer that answers your questions what to do. And it burns so much every time you ask it a question. The amount of emissions it puts into the atmosphere is incredible.
So for guilty now.
It's insane, the amount of power that it takes. And they had to build their own power stations for it, because it's just incredible.
Right.
So yeah.
So the last section I've just found.
Go
on. The first one is obviously out there. The second part, sort of, it's not the end of the world, but it would be the end of the world for you, not you personally, but for one. So, philosophical and theological causes, divine judgment. Various religious beliefs propose scenarios of divine intervention leading to the end of the world. So it's end of days, it's judgment day, it's totting up.
You're not going to get much from me here, I'm afraid.
Totting up, and you best turn around, mate. Sorry. All right, so We'll scrub around that one. The last one, so the second one, I can sort of see. Moral decay. Some philosophies argue that societal moral decline will lead to inevitable collapse. Now, if you was to ask a Roman senator at the peak of the Roman Empire, how does he see the next 100 or the next 1,000 years? He would say Rome's obviously going to carry on and so forth.
This is very interesting, actually, and I think you're completely right. And in fact, there's a guy called Ray Dalio. I don't know if you know him, but he. Sorry.
Not Ray Donovan.
No. He spends his life predicting the rise and fall of empires.
Right. Yes. Okay.
And his videos are available on YouTube. You can look or not, doesn't matter. But if you if you search on YouTube Ray Dalio Rise and Fall of Empires, it's a really easy to watch video that explains how, like the British Empire rose and now it's fallen, and now the Americans and Chinese, and how it all works out. And I think you're completely right. You need to look at. Yeah, I think you're probably right with what you say, to be honest. Moral decay, of course. Everything will change eventually.
Once again, as I say, it's the conceit of just normal human behaviour to think that what we've got is permanent and will last forever.
Yeah, well, it's obviously not, but definitely look at that, because the change between, so it establishes the change between the Netherlands, who had the first stock exchange, the Dutch, and then the British, the fight between them, and then the British came out on top, and then they had the stock exchange, and then eventually it changed to the Americans, etc., etc. And when you look forward, it's definitely going to orientate towards the Chinese, for sure. They're going to be the dominating economy, and everything's going to be judged by them. Already, if the Chinese economy takes a hit, so does Wall Street, and then it filters down to the London Stock Exchange. So it's all changing. The changing world order, as he puts it, is going from America now towards China, I think. So, yeah, definitely, it's possible.
So, just to wrap up, I had some notes here when we talked about doing this. Last week or the week before, I can't remember what we talked about. And I've got AI pointing to the end of the world, and then I've got another arrow pointing down to something called grey goo. You know what that means?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Enlighten
so,
me.
Grey goo is the theory, well, not theory, that nanobots are programmed to eat organic or non-organic material by AI or for whatever reason, and the whole of the Earth becomes a grey goo because it's just nanobots that have eaten it.
Brilliant. If that's not a great one to wrap up on, I don't know what is.
That's brilliant, isn't it? But that is actually, strangely enough, it's a very well looked at and believed theory amongst people in the field of AI.
Do you think I should get myself a new pair of wellies then? I've got some waders in the workshop.
I wouldn't like to fish in it.
Oh, better slip them on. All right, well that was fantastic. I can't believe that it's an hour and 12 minutes, an hour and 13 minutes. That's amazing. That's just whizzed by.
I know.
Mate.
Always does.
Yeah. All right. So, have you got any other portents of doom to?
No, but
start us
please,
with?
any questions?
Yes.
Stick in the comments.
Yes. Okay. So, thank you so much for watching. And if you made it this far, well done, you. Good job. So, if you'd like to give the video a thumbs up, that'd be great. Maybe think about sharing it on your socials, on your Facebooks and so on. WhatsApp's a good one. Press the notification bell so that you know when there's new content. And maybe think about subscribing if you're not subscribed already. Subscribers are shooting up. We're at the heady heights of, I think, 289, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to cope with the fame. But yeah, subscribe. It's not the end of the world. And thank you very much. I'm here all week. So yeah, so it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him.